Welcome to our new home, potentially, as long as everybody likes it.
Open bar?
Really, we were looking at about 5 different places before we finally decided on this location during the break. Really like to hear some feedback from you guys and see what you guys think. But bottom line, we wanted a place that was going to be big enough and that had plenty of parking. So there's parking here, there's parking in the back, and actually in the very back, there's like 3 spots next to the wall. And they said that we can actually double park back there. So if you know somebody's car's there and you know them and you don't mind them telling you to move, then park behind them. And then also some of the businesses down here that are closed during the evening time, they allow us to park down there too.
Right across the street at the hardware store, there's 5 or 6 spots.
Okay. And then anything on the street too, you can do that.
You can also park down at the gas station. There's like 4 or 5 spots down there.
At the gas station?
Where if you just tell the cashier you're up here having a meeting, they'll, they depending on what the cashier says, but just let the cashier know you're up at a meeting at the VFW hall, and then maybe allow you to sit there right against the alley. There's about 4 spots right there.
Cool. With that voice, you should be president. I need a microphone. Your voice. And then also, this place serves drinks, and they don't mind us bringing in our own food. They only have chips here anyway, so, let's see here. And this place also accommodated our Thursday meetings. They actually had a women's group that was meeting here before, and they asked them if they didn't mind moving it to Wednesday just to accommodate us. And the women's group was, totally okay with it. So most of the other places had limitations, either parking, bar, just days of the week, like Portuguese Hall said they can only take us on Monday. Kept saying that they would send us something in writing about, basically some form of contract, and after multiple phone calls and voicemails, I never got a contract, so this worked out. Let's see here. And also, we don't have to worry about this place pushing us out for some other event, for a wedding, for a board meeting, for whatever. So this can be our home for every first Thursday of the month. Let's see here. So feel free to give me your opinions afterwards. I'd really like to hear it, positive or negative. Tonight we have Jeff Squires. He's going to be talking to us after I babble on and on up here. But looking forward to hearing you speak and picking your brain with a whole bunch of questions. And I've already got some questions lined up, so be prepared. Who's been out fishing? Yes, Jeff.
Who? I'm just been fishing locally. I haven't been catching much of anything. Except for the Fort Lobster I caught 2 days ago.
Don't be shy.
No, I'm good.
Yeah. All right, start over.
I haven't been catching much of anything locally. I've tried lots of different things, live bait, hookup baits. Nothing's been working for me, but
Because you've been fishing the bay and where else?
and just outside towards the Whistler a little bit, but the weather hasn't been really very hospitable.
Yeah, so south of the Whistler, nothing's been hospitable.
Yeah.
Trying to make people, make sure they can hear you through me.
Hoop netting was good.
And then
I
you were
last
hooping, yeah.
got 4 keepers and 3 or 4 shorts
Yeah.
by myself, so that was fun.
You eat them yet?
I ate my portion.
Okay. My portion is next. Anybody else? I know Fox was fishing in the bay too the same day, but he wasn't having much luck. But yeah, Frank, you haven't been fishing?
Well, we fished Saturday for SDS last month. We were expecting more sand bass, but it turned into a wide open spotty bite.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a little slow that day. Some guys got some good sand bass, and the bite was first thing in the morning. Mission Bay has been really slow, like terribly slow.
Yeah.
So we actually get a fishing tomorrow morning for Spotty Bowl, which is another online tournament.
Okay.
It's held every month, and so we'll give it another run tomorrow. But last weekend was terrible before the rain.
It's all rain.
Yeah.
Cold water.
And is that a kayak tournament or is that?
Yeah, you can do kayak or boat,
Oh, okay.
but it's an individual, and it's all online. Just length, no weight.
Yeah.
So,
So, I haven't even heard about that tournament.
yeah, it's kind of, I don't know, they set it up. The guy that runs Ramona Automotive, kind of, he's the judge, and then he puts in like $500 the season for the side pots, which is kind of cool. So there's different side pots, longest spotted bay bass, longest other, shortest, smallest bay bass, spotted bay bass, smallest other, a bunch of different little rigs.
You follow Mad Max Fishing Club at MFC.
Uh-huh.
They're on. They're usually they have a YouTube show on Wednesday nights, 7 o'clock.
The fishing hour.
Yeah. What's the entry?
I think it's $80. Yeah, it was $80.
100 for masters, 80 for pro. I think it's 50 for weekend warrior, and I don't know what it is for short.
I think it's 50
Yeah,
for
they
short.
have a bunch of different divisions.
Okay.
It's the whole season long.
Oh, okay.
We got 6 events, and then we got playoffs, and then
Oh,
the
okay.
championship. So this is the second event tomorrow,
Uh-huh.
and you're allowed 1 throwaway. So you want to get in starting this weekend.
So, one weekend away?
So you have one event throwaway.
Yeah. Gotcha. Cool. Is everybody warm in here?
No, I'm freezing.
You're freezing?
I'm really warm. I'm sitting right in the grass outside.
And also, one of the things about this room is that it doesn't have much of a noise barrier, carpet or anything, so if we get too many little conversations, then it really echoes in here, so if somebody's talking like me, I appreciate it. Okay. And then, any updates on the rockfish closure?
No, that at this time,
Everything's
yeah.
the same?
Yeah, things are still the same. PFNC, I think they are meeting in March. So again, easy to get everybody please join CCA. Keep telling all your friends that fish, hike, bite, hunt, shoot, whatever, that this all affects every one of us.
Mhm.
It's just not limited to saltwater. People who lake fish, it affects everybody. So please join CCA, help support this. CCA had an event in LA, I went to it, they called it the Angler Games.
Uh-huh.
They had some contests. One of the neatest things, they did it at Fishing E-Bike in Alhambra. And that's a really neat shop if you ever been or shooting sports or fishing. They had a simulator. They basically, the simulator was at Fred Hall 2020 in Long Beach. I don't think they brought it to Del Mar. Well, Del Mar we didn't have it, but last time in 2019, I don't believe they brought this out. But you can, basically it's a simulator where you can fight a fish. And I grabbed a hold of that thing, they turned that thing on, they damn near pulled me into the screen. It really pulls hard.
Oh, yeah.
And I ain't a light guy. So I did, it took me a while, but I did land the fish, but that was one of the competitions we had for the Angler Games. They had, Iser was there with their knot tying machines, they got their machines fixed that are new, and everybody's out there testing their knots. They had Fishing Syndicate there, they had Oliver and his guys out there, they were doing a casting contest. It was a nice event. It was a small event, but a nice event. But not near as big as what we do here in San Diego. But this is for the first event for the North Los Angeles chapter. They took the Los Angeles chapter, it was pretty large. It went all the way from the San Fernando Valley all the way down to Long Beach. So they basically divided it. Anything north of 10 is now the North LA chapter. Anything south of the 10 is now the South LA chapter. They're planning on doing a barbecue, I believe, in May. But it was a nice event. It was well attended.
And what does it cost to join CCA?
CCA, It's up to $40 this year. They raised it $5 at the end of last year, so it's $40. And you can join CCA, just go to ccacalifornia.org, find a link to go ahead and join. We're also looking for lifetime members. It's $1,000. And what we're going to do now for the lifetime members, you become a life member, you can go to any of the major fundraisers for all the chapters for free. So you have free entry. That would now be a perk for becoming a lifetime member. So like anybody in this room, $1,000 laying around, and want to put it to good use, please join.
Thank you very much. And since we can't rockfish, there's always sandbags.
Yeah, I tell you what, the sand bass bite's been good, but also doing
Yeah.
really well.
Yeah.
They got some nice ones in the last week, even in this crap weather we've had.
Yeah, they've been fishing the pipe, the IV pipe. Chad went down there last weekend. They had like 10 fish over 6 pounds,
Yeah.
and about 100 bass for the day.
And you guys had Bill Boyce with you guys, right? Yeah.
Nice. Cool.
Forgot about that.
Heard about a swordfish basking outside of Newport. Catalina's got some halibut, bonito, and bass going on up there too. And then of course, after all these storms, just make sure you're watching out for some debris in the water. Don't want to hit anything in the middle of the night that's going to wreak some havoc on your boat.
There was a lot of stuff at San Diego Bay.
Yeah.
After this, I went out like a day after some of those storms passed through, man, there was a lot of stuff out there. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah. No fun to hit something. Website, now that you're talking. So San Diego Rod and Reel Club.com is our new website. So check that out, give us some feedback. I think it's looking pretty good so far. I did go through it. I do like how when you click on the previous bulletin, it opens up in a different screen instead of like having to go back and forth between screens. Any other updates you want to?
I just need more content, really. I want to start getting this video stuff going too as well. I'll set up a YouTube channel. I just haven't been able to find a video intro yet because I taped the last meeting that we had, and then I'm taping this one. I just bought the SSL cert, so we'll get that in place, and then we can start looking at adding a database and then maybe some e-commerce.
And then that way we should be able to do our weight receipts online.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's coming.
Maybe even buy membership online.
Yep.
So things like that. Just trying to make things a lot easier for everybody and a lot more user friendly. Thank you, Jim. Not Jeff. Poway Lakes is having their youth fishing derby this Saturday. So if you know any kids, take them up there. That's a lot of fun. We used to cook up all the hot dogs out there, but then they wanted their Optimist Club to take care of that. So no extra volunteering stuff needed from you guys on that part. But we do have Bart Hall coming up in 2 weeks. So for those who've signed up, I'm going to pass this sheet around. And Bart Hall actually is going to end at 8 o'clock now instead of 7 o'clock. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So I put on this sheet at the bottom that the show ends at 8 p.m. on those dates. So I'm going to pass this around. So please, put your name down and some times that you're going to be available to help out. We'd like to be about maybe a couple of hours at least. If you can do more, great. If you are open to filling up additional spots, then feel free to put your name next to your name. You can put open, and then that way I know that you can take on some other spots to help fill in where we need it. Also, for that matter, you will get into the show for free. They are allotting 8 badges for the San Diego Rod and Reel Club. And so what I'm going to do is figure out who's on the list last for the day before. I'm going to ask you to put that in the will call booth so that the morning crew can pick it up on their way in. So I'll let you guys know who the morning crew names are, so that way then the will call office knows who to give it to. Let's see here.
Period.
So, yes,
What is the name of the website again? 'Cause it either takes you to the Valley High or it tries to take you to the Facebook page.
what,
San Diego RodandReelClub.com.
San Diego RodandReelClub.com.
All one word.
All
There's no
one.
spaces in the New York.
So at the, yes, sir.
On another note, as you know, CCA is a constant presence at the Fred Hall or the Bard Hall shows. And we put on a taco night for all the vendors on Friday at the close of the show. So any of you that are going to be at the show and would like to volunteer to help us to serve the food, buzz the tables, keep track of the raffle, etc., you can just show up around 7 o'clock as we're getting things arranged. And CCA team would really appreciate it if any of you could help us out with that. It's the way we show our appreciation for all the vendors that provide all the wonderful donations that help us to inspire individuals to participate in CCA events. And it's turns out to be a pretty fun time. We'll have some sort of a raffle going on. You're welcome to that. You'll get your free fish tacos and a beer and hang out with the vendors of the CCA team. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Very nice. Yes, you can apply. So for that matter, so yeah, if you're at the venue and you're walking around, you're not manning the booth at that point in time, then go ahead and head over there and help them out. We do require that somebody's manning our booth at all times. So that's why I try to get at least 2 people per day, per hour at the booth, because we do have some, valuable stuff there. We're going to have a nice rod and reel combo, and yep.
In addition, if you get in with a pass, go to the gate and get your hand stamped. Then give the pass back to the booth. You don't need to hold the pass for the whole day to go in and out.
Oh,
We do it with CCA all the time.
okay.
If you have to, have one of your individuals walk people in, get their hand stamped or get your hand stamped and recollect the cards, because invariably they will disappear.
Yeah.
So use the hand stamp for people that are already in and hand the passes back and then shuttle them out. And it works out really well for us that way. We've never had as many as you're getting in the past. We've been stuck with 4 or 5. So that is a way to mitigate having somebody drop it off at will call and get lost, forget, etc. Utilize the hand stamp to get in and out.
Great, thank you. Good idea. So when you're at the booth, we ask you to pass out some different literature. We're going to have the new trifolds all done up. I've been spending a lot of time working on this and asking Mary to help proofread my stuff too. Then we'll also have information like our different events. So I put on every table schedule of our events, and then maybe even some information about our big fish tournament that we're going to do in August. So we ask you to help hand that stuff out. We're going to have a wheel that's going to have different prizes on it. Typically the kids like to do that a lot, and it'll be $5 a spin, and it could be winning like a little rod and reel combo. It could be some different gift certificates. I'm going to try to talk to some of the different tackle shops and see if they want to donate something so that we can put it on the wheel. Maybe $5 off at their booth, so then it kind of encourages people to go visit their booths. And that was just an idea I had. We'll also have a TV there with a DVD slideshow, and then the raffle tickets for the rod and reel combo. This is also a good opportunity for us to get donations, so Raleigh's going to be there consistently begging for stuff, so that'll be for our big fish tournament. So hats off to you, because only so many people can do what you do. So for the morning shift, they do allow trips.
I'll just talk from here, if everyone can hear me all right. We got a couple things going on this year. As you might remember from last year, we're still doing the wait receipt. So, sounds like Jim set us up on the website where you can now turn those in online. Not quite?
Not
All right,
yet.
so take a picture of the thing and send it to me in the meantime. Coming soon, right? Okay. It's a great way to get a little money and get recognized for catching a nice fish. We have 10 anglers from last year that are going to get $40 for each species that they catch. So it's a great way to make a little money. You guys will get some money too. Smile. Just smile. Like you guys need more tackle, right? Yeah. That's true. Another thing we're going to have this year that we didn't have last year was the Angler of the Year. And that person is going to have the most points after a series of tournaments that we have. And at the end of the year, they'll be recognized as the Angler of the Year. There's also a women's category and also a juniors category. So for not just the Angler of the Year, but also those weight receipts. We've got 2 overnight charters planned for the summer. One on Saturday, July 22nd. The second one is on September 16th, also a Saturday. It's going to be about $20 to $40 less than the market price. And we're only going to go at about an 80% capacity. So it's a great way to get out there with a relatively light load and save yourself a little money. Last but not least, this spring we're looking at doing a daily double charter. There's going to be a half-day trip. Arnie's working on putting that together for us. So we've got some opportunities to go fishing on some sport boats, and we're going to have some opportunities for the private boaters to have some tournaments as well. So hopefully a lot of fun stuff planned. If you guys have any suggestions, or if you ladies have any suggestions, we're all ears. We're looking for input. And that's it.
Somewhere else.
Welcome, Ivan. And so, did you mention the March tournament?
I did not. Our first tournament in March is going to be a bay bass tournament. Since rockfish is going to be, they're going to be waiting and getting bigger for us for later on in the summer. Is it April, Army? April. So our March tournament is going to be a bay bass tournament. And the tournaments after that haven't been decided on the species yet. We're going to kind of see what is biting and try to make it the funnest tournament possible. So bay bass tournament in March. And that date is March 25th. Saturday.
Saturday. That'll be the weekend after the Day of the Donks.
San Diego Bay?
San Diego Bay.
Yeah.
Where's that at? On May 20th? Is that it? 20. Gary, is there a location for the May event yet?
Picnic tournament?
No, we don't have a location yet on that. We were talking about maybe doing it at Shelter Island and maybe making like a little shore thing or something, but so we'll talk about that at the next board meeting, which will be next Monday. Any other questions? Okay, great.
What are the 2 charters, or what are the boats on the 2 main trips?
Both charters are going to be on the producer. The
Producer.
producer. And so speaking of the producer, we do have a free overnight trip.
He doesn't have to be in the club. It would be nice if he is, but he could be in, he is a guest.
All right. Okay. So we do have a trip, it's a separate side raffle. The trip is worth $400. We are selling tickets at $10 per ticket. So, $10 for $400, or if you want to buy more, it's a pretty good opportunity. So we do have a completely side raffle on that, separate tickets, and we're going to potentially close that out at June meeting. Yes, Raleigh?
Are they going to be able to use, if somebody wins that, in June, right?
Yeah, you cannot use
If you win
it.
that, can you use that during one of our tournaments?
No.
Our charters?
For one of the charters, no.
No, you can't. All right, good.
Good question.
Are you gonna announce the charters and let us sign up for them tonight, or?
You can sign up for those charters tonight, yes. You can sign up for the charters tonight, you can sign up for, you can buy tickets for that tonight, but you cannot combine them.
Okay.
Okay?
But the overnight trips?
Yeah.
Oh.
All righty. Let's see here. Clothing Master, any specials? Anything, what you got going on? Yeah, you're the Clothing Master. What you got going on?
What you see is what we got, and if you want anything special, let me know. I need to order some stock. You were asking about some sweatshirts.
Yeah.
I want to get an idea if anybody wants something, let me know so I can order some.
Yeah, so even if you don't see what you want on the table, Einer can special order that. You have catalogs over there? But on you? So he's got a catalog book too, you can check it out and then we can get those custom made for you. If you guys all say you want something specific, then Einer would be more than happy to order something in bulk to make it cheaper. So, all right, and let's see here. All right, so then we're going to do a raffle after we have Jeff speak. And so without further ado, Jeff Squires.
The real Jeff, not
Real
Jeff.
Jeff. That's why I
The
got
one we want to hear.
flustered there. And he also donated a couple of things to our raffle, so thank you very much. Maybe you can describe what you put in that nice big package over there. And, yeah, welcome.
Okay, thank you. So, how you guys doing? Everybody in. Jeff Squires with One Cool Tuna. Make the One Cool Tuna line labels and the OCP jigs, surface irons. Been here in San Diego since '77, came out from Florida, grew up on the water down there, fished all the time, came out here, found out that fishing out here is quite a bit different than fishing in Florida. Use conventional reels, not spinning reels. You go out fishing for a lot bigger fish than what they do in Florida. Florida's a lot of fishing is inshore in the intercoastal waters and the Gulf of Mexico. I didn't fish much on the Atlantic side, but I fished the Keys, but it's a lot of shallow water, a lot of shallow fishing, similar to what bait fishing is here. Is pretty much what you do there in Florida. Came out here, found out tuna. Oh, those things swim. They fight a little bit better than what you catch down in Florida. So I got hooked on fishing the surface irons when I first came out here, and that has been my passion for a very long time. But what I started One Cool Tuna was originally what I make is the One Cool Tuna line labels. They're small stickers that you put on your reels or on your rods so you identify your line weight. You always know what line weight you have. I go on long trips, I'm taking anywhere from 8 to 10 rods on a long range trip, and you always forget what line's on what reel, what rod, spectra, mono, fluorocarbon, trying to keep track of it all. It was just people were putting tape on there, they're putting paper stickers, they're writing on Sharpies, and none of that stuff worked. And I said, there's got to be a better way. So I got together with a couple of people that I know in the printing business, and we worked on these stickers for about 2 years. I gave them to the local fleet, had the deckhands try them out, make sure that they stayed stuck, they didn't wash off, they didn't smudge, they didn't get extra sticky, hard to get off, and make sure that they lasted as long as you wanted to last and came off when you wanted to come off so you could change them out. So I developed those and started that out with just a few different line weights on it. People kept asking for different line weights, they kept asking for spectra. They wanted freshwater, they wanted mono, so I came up with about 6 different SKUs now on that. We have mono, spectra, heavy, freshwater, and I have also now what we call drag stickers. What they do is, with your lever drags, you always want to know what your drag weight, what your drag setting is. And I have little stickers here that are 30% of the line weight. So they start out at 12 pounds and go up to 39 pounds of drag. And you just put that on the lever when you set your drag with the scale. You're going to set it at strike, or most people call it strike, but you set it there and then you just put that sticker there so you know where that is. Some of them have strike written, some of the reels have strike engraved in it, but it's not always exactly where you want the sweet spot for your drag. So these small stickers will allow you to put that exactly where that position is. You go on a long trip where you're fishing these big tuna, the deckhands and the captains will always ask you, what's your drag setting? Where's your strike? This way you know exactly where it is, you can change it, you can adjust it. And so if the drag weight is not exactly what you want here, there's some blank ones here, you can actually write in your drag poundage that you set on there. So these are all what they call, the white ones are writable. The silver hologram ones are not writable. Those have got a UV coating on it that don't allow you to write on top. But these you can write with just a standard ink pen, Sharpie, whatever. And it'll stay on there, it won't rub off. So I've been making those for a while. Those are available in most of the tackle shops around town. If they're not, you can go on the website.
What's the maximum strike that you have pre-printed on your stickers?
39 pounds.
Ah, good luck with that. Thank you.
No problem. That's for the big boys. But they're available in most of the tackle shops around town. If not, you can go online at onecooltuna.com. There's no shipping involved. I just mail them out to you. Order them online. I'll mail them out in a couple of days. But honestly, I'm in just about every tackle shop here in town in San Diego already. So shouldn't have a problem finding it. The other product that I make is surface irons. And these are my surface irons, the OCT, One Cool Tuna, not Octobers, not Ox, OCTs, One Cool Tuna. When I first started making them, they're engraved on the back there that says OCT on them, and I had a gentleman go, did you make any in December? No. So I put little periods after each letter now just to specify that it's OCT One Cool Tuna. But these are all CNC machined. These are cut. They're not cast. They're not poured. There's not hand finishing done on these. These are all cut with the computer in a CNC machine, and every one of them is exactly the same as the other one, other than the size difference. I have 3 different size chips. But every one of them is exactly the same. They exactly weigh the same. They all have the same edges on it. They all have the same rings and hooks on it. There is no hand finishing on it. You will not get a variance. The computer cuts these within 3/1000ths of an inch every single time. And when they come off the machine, this is how they come off the machine. There is nobody sitting there grinding down this or sanding this or drilling a hole later. It's all computer cut. So every single one of these is exactly the same. They're cut from solid billet aluminum, 6160 aircraft grade aluminum. They're solid billet. They won't break. They won't crack. If you've seen guys drop jigs on the deck and the thing breaks, this will never break. You can put this in a 6,000-pound press and pull it apart, and it'll stretch before it'll break. You won't find anything that can pull these apart. The rings on them are all stainless steel. The hooks on them are BMC. My standard hook is the BMC 404X hook on that. I braze every single one of these jigs myself. Every one is brazed. They're not spot TIG welded. They're not anything else, but I braze them all myself. So I handle every single jig that comes off my line. They're all made here in San Diego. I have a machine shop in Poway that does my machining for me. I just don't have a $500,000 machine sitting in my garage that I can make these with. But they're all made here in San Diego, 100%. They're powder coated. The colored ones that have got a smooth texture to them are powder coat. I don't use paint. I use powder coat. It's much more of a durable, better finish. You won't see a lot of the fancy colors because powder coat is much harder to do multi-colors with. The others are anodized, and those are the much brighter colors. Anodized will actually, is like a dye on the metal. It actually impregnates the metal about 3 microns. So the only way you're going to get this scratched or this color is going to come off is if you hit it with another piece of metal. I haven't found any fish out there yet with metal teeth. So fish aren't going to scratch these. Okay, this color is going to stay on there as long as you have the jig. If you put your jigs together in a bag, they may rub against each other and they'll scratch that way. But metal on metal is the only way this color is going to come off. It doesn't fade. It doesn't scratch with a fish bite. It's there permanently. And your anodized, you'll see it's a much brighter color. And the ridges, you can actually feel the ridges on this a little bit more than the ones with powder coat. The powder coat is going to appear to be smoother, and it's a more duller color. I've got a yellow here that's pretty bright, and the greens here. But the shiny colors, the shiny jigs, those are anodized. The smoother and the duller colors are your powder coat. The 3 basic shapes for our jigs are, we have an OCT 10, which is your standard size, conventional, everybody makes a jig this size. We have an OCT 4, which is a smaller one, which is similar to the Tanny 4.0 light size. And then we have the OCT 7.5. Now the 7.5 has got a flat side on the top. It's flat on the back and flat on the top. What that does is I have fishermen that have the low profile bait caster type reels. And those traditionally have a much higher gear ratio. And guys just have trouble slowing down. They can't wind those slow. And they were basically winding them too fast. And when you wind a surface iron too fast, the jig actually helicopters. It just spins, it doesn't wiggle. It doesn't kick like it's supposed to. So what I did was I did a lot of research and a lot of development, and I found that if I have this flat side on this jig, it takes that helicoptering out of it, and you can wind it much faster. So if you have a conventional reel, you can wind this one faster with that. A lot of times you'll find that sometimes the fish, or especially yellowtail, they'll be chasing the jig, but they won't commit. They'll just follow it right to the boat, and it's like, come on, bite it, you're right there. And they just don't commit to it. What you do is you take this jig, put it on there, and you wind it faster, and it gives the fish the impression that it's trying to get away, and then they'll bite it. And you'll find that sometimes they're just a little finicky on their bite, so I always find a way of enticing them with a little bit faster jig. But this is really designed for those low profile, higher gear ratio jigs, reels, so you can wind it faster and it'll still hold the pattern. Your typical pattern with a surface iron, if you've got it right, it's going to be 3 wiggles and a kick. That surface iron is going to go out there, wiggle 3 times, and then kick out to the right or kick out to the left. A jig is not made to kick left or right. You'll find that some jigs will traditionally kick one way or the other, and that depends on the hips. Your hips on the jig, right here in the middle of the jig, you'll see hips. Some of them are rounded, some of them are pointed, some of them don't have very much of a hip. But that hip is what gives that jig the kick, okay? And controls how how much that jig does kick. So the sharper you have a hip here, the more predominant you have a hip here, you'll find that jig will kick further to the left or to the right. Sometimes a jig will both kick left and right at the same time. And what happens with that is we have this jig here, which we call the pineapple. And if you look at it, the texture on it, it actually looks like a pineapple, okay? And one guy called it a hand grenade, but I tend to want to go with a pineapple on it. What those ridges do is that actually makes this jig kick left and right erratically. So if the fish, again, is finicky, not biting it, chasing it, won't commit to it, I'll tie this jig on, kick left and right, and again, they'll bite at it because they think it's trying to get away from them. Because these surface iron bite is really a reaction bite, okay? It's something's in my zone. There's no way they're going to confuse this with a bait fish, okay? It's a piece of metal. They're odd colors. They don't look like a bait fish. So it's a reaction bite. It's the motion of it, the action of it is what draws them in and gets them to bite, okay? But again, this one here will kick both left and right, so that kind of entices them, gets them to bite. The smaller, sometimes they'll want to go for a smaller bait, okay? And that's where we go with the OCT4. But it's just a little bit smaller. There again, the fish are just picky sometimes. They'll want a certain color, they'll want a certain size, they'll want a certain action. So there isn't really one surface iron that you need in your arsenal. You need a bunch of different ones in your arsenal. The color, the fish really, they don't see color the way we see color. It's really in shades of gray from what most of the guys, scientists have told me. It's not so much a color that they see, it's a shades of color that they see. What I find is in an overcast situation, you want a dark jig, just like your trolling jigs, okay? You got overcast situation, they tell you to put on a darker jig, your purples, your blacks, your browns, your dark colors. Bright sunlight, you want a light color, you want a shiny color, either naked or a white or the light blues, things like that. The brighter colors to pick up on that reflection, to pick up on that sunlight. Personally, if I was to have two jigs, I'd have a black one and a naked one. And I've fished many days with just those two jigs. Everybody goes, well, the mint. Yeah, okay, mint. You know, mint is by far the most popular color for a surface iron. And 90% of why that is the most popular color is because it was the jig that somebody tied on first thing in the morning and got the first fish. Everybody goes, what color was that? Mint. Everybody ties on mint. So then everybody's getting bit on mint. So all of a sudden everybody says mint's the only color. But you can get out there and tie another color on there and get just as many bites as somebody else as long as you got the action. Action is what gets the bite, okay? The overcast situation, darker, you want that dark black, stands out like a sore thumb. You've got to think like a fish. You're looking up in an overcast situation, they see this white clouds. They see the white gray clouds. If you've got a black jig, that's high contrast. It's going to stand out like a sore thumb. That's what's going to get noticed before anything else. Even over a mint, over a light blue, over a scrambled egg, whatever, black is going to get noticed first. Your bright sunlight, when it's clear blue skies, you put on a shining one, you put on a naked one, like this, something sparkly, something shiny like this, it picks up all the facets of the light, and that's going to get noticed. When a jig is actually, what a lot of people don't realize is, if a jig is swimming properly in the water, if you're casting it and retrieving it at the correct speed, and everything's going right, it's actually going through the water like a boat. The flat side is up on the surface, the bottom curved side, like a boat, is going through the water. It's going to go through the water just like a boat. It's not going to be spinning around and around. and it's just gonna kick lazily back and forth, left to right, and then it'll kick out one way, left or right, at a big thing, and it should come back to center and start wiggling again. So you get those 3 to 4 wiggles, and then a kick.
Type of knot have anything to do with that?
It has a slight amount to do with it. If you tie a big honking knot on there, it's gonna make it kick differently. If you keep your knot to a minimum, you're gonna get better with it. If you've got a jig that doesn't swim right, that is a bad swimmer, try wiring it. Putting like a Wahoo wire on it, or just try it with a wire leader or a smaller line, and it'll make it swing better. You can also put a small ring on there, do a second ring on here. If you put a second ring on your big ring, it'll free it up a little bit and make it kick a little bit better. When I put my hooks, and I've been criticized by this by many people, and I don't really care. It works for me and it works on our jig. I put the hook on backwards from everybody else. My hook is on, if you look at that, it's 1 down and 2 up. Because you gotta figure the jig is, if the jig is swimming in the water like this, like a boat, the hook here is 1 down on a treble hook. You got 1 main hook down and 2 hooks up, okay? This hook has now become a rudder for the boat, and it makes the action swim. Most jigs that you buy, there'll be 2 hooks down and 1 hook up. And they've always said the logic is because the fish comes up from behind and you have now a better chance of getting 2 hooks in that fish's mouth. No, they're coming in from the side. You're going to hook them with 1, 2, or all 3 hooks no matter what. Very rare do they actually, the yellowtail very rarely will swallow the jig from the backside. They're going to come in from the side, they're going to come in from the front, they're going to hit it there. They're not going to come up from the back end of it and swallow it. So I'd rather have the hook being the control and being in charge of making this jig swim right than worrying about getting hooked. It's going to get hooked. If you put it in there, it's going to get hooked. So all of my jigs, the hook is 1 down. If you've got a jig that's not swimming right, turn the hook around, try it. You'll see that it can improve a bad swimming jig. It'll make it swim better.
What about throwing on a single hook? Would there be any situation you throw on a single hook on a?
The only time I've really used a single hook is if it's on one of the older jigs where you actually mount the single hook to the jig. A single hook is predominantly used for yo-yo jigs. It's better if you're going after the bigger fish down low and you're jigging it up. You'll find that a single hook will give better hook set rate. You'll get a better set rate with a single hook if you're yo-yo fishing versus a treble hook. On the surface, I find treble hook is more tends to get more hook ratio when getting bit, okay, than a single hook. Like I said, the only time I've really used a single hook on a jig and had it be successful is if it's one of those older jigs where it's actually attached, where you have the long single hook that's screwed into the jig. Those are actually designed to swim that way. So the only other time would be is if I do have one. All of my jigs are surface irons. I've made surface irons because I can control the shape, I can repeat the shape, and I can guarantee the swim action. The CNC allows that jig to be exactly perfect every time, which allows it to swim perfect every time. I guarantee all of my jigs to swim perfect every time. If you can't get my jig to swim right, send it back to me, I'll give you back your money. I won't send you another jig because if you can't get the first one to swim right, you won't get the second one to swim right. It's fisherman's error at that point, okay? It's not the jig. The jigs will all swim right if they're fished correctly. I do make one heavy jig. It's my brass bomber. It's called the OCT 9.75. It's solid marine brass, 9 ounces of brass. It's machined because I did want to control, most time with your yo-yo jigs, all it has to do is find the bottom. Okay, it doesn't have to be a shape, doesn't have to be a particular shape, it's not doing anything special on the way down, it's just getting down there to the bottom to get to the zone, okay? And then coming up, it's pretty much coming up straight, the helicopter on the way up, but you don't require a special shape for that. But when fishing the big tuna, or fishing the wahoo, or fishing the big yellowtail down on the ridge, or out at Alejos, or at Guadalupe, you do want a special jig. You want a jig that's going to flutter in a particular way to grab the attention of those fish. So I do machine a brass one, and I need the weight because I want to be the first one down. And 9 ounces is pretty much going to get you down there before just about everybody else, unless they've got a 600-gram knife fish, knife jig that these guys are throwing these days. But this one here is my 9.75, 9 ounces of solid brass, and then it's got glow stripes on here on this, and this thing has been deadly on the tuna, and I got some wahoo on it down at Lagos Rocks last summer as well. But what it does is it flutters down and then gets to a point where it hits your temperature. You're going to have a variable temperature range in your water as you're going down, and every time you get into a different temperature range in there, it's going to affect the action of the jig. It's going to twist, it's going to turn, it's going to drop differently. Have you ever been dropping your jigs down and you notice that all of a sudden you start getting a backlash? It's like that jig's going too fast all of a sudden, and then it slows down, and then it speeds up. And it's like, how can it be changing speed when it's just dropping down? It's the same weight, it's going down. Well, as you hit those different water columns, those different temperature columns, that water is different densities, and then it makes those jigs react differently. So you can be actually dropping the same jig down, and as it goes through different water columns, it's going to react differently. So if you look at this jig close up, it's got different bevels on it. It's got different contours to it that I worked on especially to get it to drop the way I want it to drop. And I did some video research on dropping them down. I blew away a GoPro trying to go too deep with it, so didn't last as long. But just to watch the reaction, and I changed it and modified it. So this is the only heavy I do make. I don't make a standard heavy jig or yo-yo jig, just because the CNC action doesn't really lend enough to make it a better jig than somebody else's yo-yo jig. So I concentrate on what I want to do is make a better jig and make a jig that reacts the same way every time for so long. And that's kind of what we do. So, any questions?
Where can we buy them at?
What's that?
Where can we buy them at?
Everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah, I'm really, when I started this business, I wanted to make sure that the shops carried the product, okay? I didn't want to sit there and have a website and mail out a jig every day or 2 jigs every day, or worry about somebody finding the website, or worry about somebody. People in the guys in the tackle shop know my product, they can sell my product, I can stock plenty of colors, and I try to concentrate on keeping my stores supplied. And just about every shop here in town, in one form or another, has my jigs. If they don't, tell them to give me a call. I live here in San Diego, and I'll drop them off the next day. So that's not a problem. Fisherman's got stock. Squidco's got stock. Angler's Choice has got stock. Dana Landing's got stock. Angler's Arsenal out in Lakeside's got it. ECB, East County Bait and Tackles, I'm in there. M&M Rods. Point Loma, he doesn't stock them too often, but he'll get them in. Turners, no, I'm not in Turners. I keep working on them. I'm going to get in there.
Pretty sure you're an Angler's Choice.
I'm sorry?
Angler's Choice, right with Luke.
Yeah, Angler's Choice. He's got them behind the counter there. He hides them behind everything else.
They're not yeah.
Joey at Squidco was my best retailer last year.
Yeah, he's got them all.
He's got them all, he stocks them all. If he needs something, he calls me up right away and I get it down to him right away.
What's your favorite color and why?
Like I said, black and naked. Those are my two. Those are the two colors that will get me bit every time. Dark, if it's overcast, the black. That naked is just this. It's just plain metal.
Oh, God.
Okay? Which 90% of your jigs out there after the second or third trip of everybody else's, that's what they end up looking like because the paint comes off anyways.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, by far, mint actually is my biggest seller. Mint outsells everything else 3-to-1. But that's not.
Is there a reason?
Huh?
Like, is there a reason for that?
Yeah, because everybody fishes mint. That's it. That's it. Everybody fishes mint. Everybody likes mint. The latest one that's doing real well for me is right here. This color here is called avocado. I'm calling that avocado. It's I've had guys take it down to Bay of LA, and one guy said he had to hide it every night because the Ponga captain was trying to steal it.
Hey, that wouldn't be a bad tip for the Ponga. You know,
No.
buy an extra one and give
Yeah.
a tip.
I've had this one guy came back. He says I had to stop fishing it. He said I got tired of whining in fish every cast. He says it literally. He says every single cast I was getting bit, and he was getting grouper, yellowtail, everything on the thing. And he said it was just phenomenal. He said it was probably his favorite color of all time.
They're biting, they work. I like the dark green one, cloudy.
The dark green one, yeah, the mossback green, that is a real good one. This tequila lime, that gets bit. Calicos, they like the yellow. I think it's just territorial, they think it's something in their zone and they just don't want it in there. So for calicos, I go with the OCT4, the smaller one, in the canary yellow, and that gets bit all the time on those guys. The red, when the red crabs are around, that gets bit. The plain blue here, that takes the place of the blue and white that's real popular. I do have, occasionally I'll do up some demos. I don't have any with me here. I'll do a short run of them, but I'll take the blue and I'll put a white powder, it's a blue anodized, like this, and then I'll put a white powder coat stripe on it. It's a two-step process, so it's a couple bucks more because it's an extra process. But I'll do short runs of those. I'll offer those up on the website every now and then, or one of the shops will put in a special order for them, and I'll get those in the shop. I do a wounded soldier occasionally. Again, this is powder coat, two-step process, so it's not something that's easily done. A lot of the commercial powder coaters don't even do two-step processes, because what has to happen is you have to put the one color down, start to bake it, pull it out at the right time, put the second color on it, put it back in, and then bake it again, and hopefully don't over bake it so that it chips off and flakes off and pops off. So it's real tough. They have a lot of fallout with it. They don't like to do it, so I don't offer it very often, but I do. And then I'm calling these my color splashes. It comes in a green macro, in a blue, I've got it in a purple, and also a silver and black. I call it Raider. But that's a two-step anodized. That's a two-step anodized process, which is real hard to do. But I do offer that occasionally. Some of the shops will carry those occasionally as well. So.
Hey, Jeff.
Yes.
All right, are you kind of like WD-40? How many tries does it take you to get the lure to make the right action?
The very first ones that we made, I thought it was going to be real easy. I had a candy bar jig that was my favorite jig, swam perfect every time. I said just 3D print it, or just 3D scan it, load it in the program, cut it out, you're done, no problem. No. is that your metal density in a cast jig, it's poured. So what happens is it's not pure aluminum. People think that it's all aluminum. It's not. They have to add a certain amount of zinc to the aluminum to get it to pour into the molds to flow correctly. So if your air temperature is different, then from one day to the next, you have to add more zinc or less zinc to get it to flow properly. So if you buy a Taddy 4.0, you can have 20 different variations of that same jig based on them having different molds or based on the day that they poured it, okay, in the weight that it is. With my metal, it's solid billet aluminum that's pressed. It's compressed. It's the same density every single time. Every one of my jigs weighs exactly the same. So what happens is that affects the way the jigs swim. So when I cut the very first one from the candy bar had a completely different density, plus the little minute changes from the guys grinding off the trees that hold the jigs when they do them in the pour makes that jig swim differently. Plus where they drilled the hole in the jig, because those holes are drilled after the jigs are poured. They're not drilled before. They're not part of the pour. So all of those little variations can affect the way that jig swims. So when I did the first one and it didn't swim, I'm like, okay, what's wrong? And 23 prototypes later, I was gonna say, before I finally figured it out. But we had a basic shape. I made 25 basic jigs and then took a file with me and a grinder, and down at the docks, and I'm filing and grinding and changing this and changing that and trying to get it to swim right. Fish and Game a couple of times said, what are you doing? It took 23 prototypes before I finally got it right. There's other guys out there making CNC jigs now. A lot of them just have a CNC machine and figured they can make a jig. Not a problem. Other guys are similar to me, but they don't put the research into it. The OCT 10, like I said, was 23 prototypes before I got it right. The OCT X, which is the one with the textures on it, there was 7 different textures before I decided on these 2 textures to make it right. The OCT 4 was 2.5 years of testing before I released that. The 7.5 was about 1.5 years. That came quicker than I thought it was going to. You'll be the first to see this. The OCT 1,
Whoa.
okay, is going to be available this summer, hopefully, if everything works out. It'll be the smallest surface iron out there that will swim perfectly. This has been working for almost 3 years to come up with this. So it's in production right now, the metal is in production right now, but I have to work on the color and I have to work on the hooks still. So depends on how fast I get the colors and the hooks figured out, if I get it released this summer or not.
And
But
what type of fish would you use that for? Like
this will be good from everything from trout to tuna. It's good, because those big tuna are out there feeding on those little micro bait. Okay, and I actually fished one of these last summer, and what I did was I put a 3/4 ounce sinker on a leader about 18 inches above this, and used that for the weight to get it out, but threw it into the boil, and they were swallowing this thing like crazy. And I pulled in 3 fish, and everybody's like, there is no way you got tuna on that thing. But the trouble was getting it out there, because it is small, it is light, you know. But adding that little weight to the leader on it to get it to cast out there, it was getting out there and it was getting bit. So
Make it out of gold.
that's the thing, is that there's a couple of guys out there that have been boring jigs this size, but they can't anodize them.
Yeah.
Okay? They'd have to gold plate them, or they'd have to like plate them, or they'd have to paint them to get gold. Since I'm machining them, I can't anodize them, and I can't anodize them in gold. So, yeah, I will have them in gold, and I'll have them in
I'm
polish.
talking about for the weight of gold.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so the problem is,
$30,000 diamond encrusted jig.
Somebody will buy it.
So the problem is that this was one of the issues when I went to the powder coat, is that you add a certain amount of powder coat to this and you start losing your edges, okay? And I had a trouble was, when I was doing this, is that the powder coat guy was taking them and he was sandblasting them to get a texture to hold the powder coat. And he was a little bit too heavy on one side, a little bit too light on another. I said, okay, so there goes that whole perfect plan of every jig is the same. I said, you can't powder coat, you can't sandblast it to get your texture in there. You tell me what texture you want and I'll machine it in there. So literally, this texture that you see on these jigs is just little ridges. When you're done here, you come up here and you can feel it. There's little ridges on here. These ridges, the reason these ridges are on there is to hold the powder coat. So that it's not, so they didn't have to put it on so thick that I'd lose my edges. They also, when I was doing the powder coating, sometimes they'd hang them this way, sometimes they'd hang them this way. Powder coat melts. So all of a sudden, if they were hanging them this way with the nose, I was getting too much powder coat on the nose. And the nose, I was losing my shape on the nose. So we had to set it up and say, they can only hang this way. So that it would drip, if it did thicken up or melt down, it would melt down at the tail, which wouldn't affect the nose, which affects my swim. That's all part of the production, that's all part of what I do to make sure that every one of these jigs swims right. Is that every step of this process has been thought out and has been planned for. So it's not just, okay, I got a machine, I can cut a jig and do it. You know, get it out there in the market and sell it. It's not. I pride myself on making sure that every jig I would fish with it wouldn't be, you know, upset if somebody else fished with it. I know it's going to catch fish. So, that's me. Yes.
What's the largest fish you know of that's been caught on a OTC?
226-pound bluefin.
In a foamer?
Nope. Nope. Just there was some free swimmers. There was a guy that had hooked up on one on a flying fish and was bringing it to the boat, and the guy next to him saw a bunch of free swimmers following that one in and grabbed the pineapple, the OCT pineapple naked, and pitched it out there and got hooked up on it and was like, oh crap. 9-foot rod and 50-pound test line, and I got a 226-pound tuna pulling up my butt. So, but yeah, he actually got 3 that day on the OCT jig. He said he would have had 4, but he handed it off to another guy, and the guy was pulling on it way too hard. He kept telling him to back off, and the guy's like, why? He says, because you're going to bend that hook. It's been 3 fish already. And sure enough, he got it up to the boat, and the thing came off. They pulled it up. The one hook was like straightened out on it. So, but those the 4.0 4X VMC, it held up to 3 fish, and all 3 of them were over 100. The biggest was 226.
Nice.
So, if they're fished right, you can catch a big fish with that hook. I'm not worried about it.
So your R&D for the deep jig used a GoPro. And the
Yes.
surface iron, you did it all by casting it out yourself.
Yeah. But that was going, not only, you can't, people were like, well, you just go to a pool and throw it in the pool and see how it feels. No. Saltwater density is completely different from freshwater. So that does lend another thing is the strangest fish ever caught on an OCT jig was a catfish. Guy was practicing jig casting at a pond back in Tennessee, and he got a backlash, and the thing sank to the bottom, and by the time he got it untangled and started winding it in, some catfish decided that was lunch and bit onto it, so. I had a picture of a catfish with an OCT in his mouth, so. But my biggest fish on an OCT was a 43-pound yellowtail down at Alejo's Rocks. I had a pretty big wahoo this summer on an OCT jig, and I thought that was going to be the one that busted open, but a hammerhead shark decided to come up and take everything from me, so took the fish and the jig. So, but
So do all the tackle shops have the same price?
it depends. The price varies depending on the tackle shop. The ones at the landings are going to be charging more because they have the port fees. Okay, I don't know if you all know that or not, but there's a 10% port fee on everything sold at the docks. Okay, if they're on port land, they have to pay the port a 10% commission. So your tackle shops away from the port, away from the docks, is going to be less. I have a manufacturer's suggested retail of, they can't go below $27.95, just to keep it balanced with everybody, to keep it fair with everybody. But $27.95 is the lowest that they can go. The average is probably 29 across the board for the jigs, but you have a lifetime. I have a lifetime guarantee on the rings and hooks. If you straighten them out, if the deckhand straightens them out, if they get rusty, if you don't like the looks of it, if you just want to change it out because you're weird, I'll replace the rings and hooks for free for life. Okay, either drop it off at the tackle shop or mail it to me directly, and I'll replace it and send it back to you, no charge.
Yeah, you've done it at some of the events we had over the last few years, which we're very good about.
Yeah, I'll set up my booth at a couple of shops, I'll bring my torches, my rings, and my hooks, and you bring me your jigs, and I'll replace the rings and hooks on it at the event. So that's not a problem. I was thinking about doing a day at the docks, but that's just a one-day event that's just way too busy so that's the only event that I sell direct at, okay, is the day at the docks event. So the rest of the time it's through my retailers. I try to support my retailers and keep them happy and keep things flowing that way. But I do sell the day at the docks just because it is a one-day event, and I tried doing it with Doug at Fisherman's Landing, and for some reason between my booth and the front door of his shop, people forgot what they were going to buy. It's like, yeah, I'll take it, I'll get 3 or 4, and then at the end of the day, it was like, Doug, you didn't sell that many, what happened? It's just like, so it's like, okay, I'll sell them here at the booth and make sure everybody gets their jigs right then and there. So.
$27.95 or less?
Huh? $27.95 at the day at the docks. So. But I'll generally throw in a bonus. If somebody buys 2 or 3, I'll kick in a deal. If they buy 1, I normally give them a pack of line labels, something like that. There's always an incentive at day at the dock. So.
Somebody ever run real close?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. So.
Any other questions? All right, great.
No.
Thank you so much. You ended up not needing a microphone.
That's all.
All right, let's take a 10-minute break, buy some raffle tickets. Looks like we got a lot of room in that barrel, and